Imagine paying $15,000 for a product. Not a car, not a house. A promise. A promise that the thing you just bought would, very soon, drive itself. No hands, no eyes on the road, full autonomy. The guy selling it to you is one of the most famous people on the planet, and he's been right before, so you pay. Millions of people pay. That was 2016. It is now 2026. The car still cannot drive itself. The promise has been pushed back so many times that Tesla had to invent new numbers just to keep people from asking questions. When the fleet hit 6 billion miles driven, nothing happened. When it hit 7 billion, still nothing. So Musk moved the target to 10 billion and told the world that it would finally be the moment. Tesla crossed 10 billion miles in early 2026. The cars are still level 2. A human still has to watch every single second. And here is where it stops being a story about a delayed product and starts being a story about something far more serious. Courts across California, Texas, Australia, and Europe have begun reaching the same conclusion. A judge in California used 4 words to describe Tesla's flagship software feature. Actually, unambiguously false and counterfactual. A Tesla owner in Texas sued the company in small claims court, won over $10,000, and Tesla didn't even show up to defend itself. The legal bill across all active lawsuits is approaching $14 billion. So the question this video is going to answer is a simple one. Did Tesla genuinely believe it could build the future it was selling? Or did it know somewhere along the way that the promise was the product? Stay with me, because the answer is more uncomfortable than you think. In October 2016, Elon Musk told the world something extraordinary. Every Tesla rolling off the production line, he said, already had all the hardware it would ever need to drive itself completely. No hands on the wheel, no eyes on the road. Full autonomy, and not someday in the distant future. He went further. By the end of 2017, he promised, a Tesla would drive itself from Los Angeles to New York City without a single human intervention. That promise did something specific to the people who heard it. It didn't just generate excitement, it anchored their expectations. Consumers bought Tesla vehicles not just as cars, but as pre-orders for the future. They paid for a technology that did not yet exist, trusting that the gap between the promise and the product was merely a software update away. Tesla priced that gap accordingly. The full self-driving package launched at $3,000 and climbed over the following years to as high as $15,000. Buyers paid willingly. They had been told the hardware was already in the car, the software would catch up. All they had to do was wait. What they didn't know is that the wait would stretch into years, then close to a decade, with each passing year bringing a new promise and a new price tag, but never the product they were sold. The 2017 deadline came and went, then 2018, then 2019, then 2020. The goalpost kept moving. The money kept flowing in. Something was very wrong here. But the world wouldn't find out how wrong for a long time. There's a concept in behavioural economics called the sunk cost fallacy. It describes how humans, once they've invested money or time into something, struggle to walk away even when the evidence tells them they should. Tesla built a business model on top of that instinct, whether by design or by accident. Think about what a Tesla FSD buyer actually faced. They had paid between $5,000 and $15,000 for software embedded in the car they drove every day. Walking away from Tesla meant writing off that purchase entirely, so they stayed. They waited. They upgraded to the next version. They told themselves it was almost there. Ben Geweiser had had enough. A Model 3 owner in Travis County, Texas, paid $10,000 for full self-driving in August 2021. That same year, Musk had said the car would drive itself with reliability exceeding a human by year's end. 5 years later, Geweiser's vehicle still couldn't drive itself. It stopped in the middle of the road. It missed school zones. It asked him to take over within minutes of activation. He contacted Tesla in November 2025 requesting a refund. They told him to visit a service centre. In January 2026, he filed in small claims court. Tesla didn't even appear for the hearing. A judge awarded him $10,672.88. Tesla is still attempting to delay the payment. That single case reads like a punchline. Multiply it by millions of customers across 50 countries, and it becomes something else entirely. If this video is making you think, hit subscribe and drop this in the comments. Did you ever believe Tesla's self-driving promises? Because what comes next is the part Tesla really doesn't want you to see. Tesla's marketing always relied on one core assumption, that software is infinitely updatable, and that the car you buy today will always be compatible with tomorrow's improvements. It's the model that made Tesla feel like a tech company rather than an automaker. For a while it worked, but there was a physical problem hidden inside that narrative. In 2023, Tesla quietly introduced its hardware 4-chip. New vehicles rolled off the line with an upgraded computer, better cameras, and far more processing power. The problem was that owners who had already paid for FSD, the ones told since 2016 that their hardware was fully sufficient, were running on hardware 3. On the April 2026 earnings call, Musk finally admitted that HW3 cars cannot deliver the autonomous driving that those owners were sold. That admission has a 3,000-person lawsuit attached to it. Tom Losavio, the lead plaintiff, bought his Model S in 2017 for $100,000 and paid an additional $8,000 for lifetime FSD access. 9 years later, he's one of more than 3,000 people who organized in California to sue Tesla for exclusion from the very system they purchased. Similar suits have been filed in Australia. Dutch owners who paid up to €6,400 for the feature have joined a collective European claim. A class action is also working through the Australian Federal Court, with thousands of owners involved. The software update that was supposed to fix everything required new hardware. Tesla said nothing until the lawsuits arrived. When a company misses a deadline, it has two choices: admit failure or invent a more impressive-sounding target that makes the last one feel small by comparison. Tesla has chosen the second option so many times that it has elevated the practice to something approaching a business strategy. In 2016, Musk said the fleet would need roughly 6 billion miles of FSD data before regulators could approve true autonomy. In January 2026, Tesla announced the fleet had crossed 7 billion miles. Nothing changed. No autonomy, no announcement. So Musk shifted the number on X to 10 billion miles, saying that once Tesla vehicles crossed that threshold, the system would be ready for safe, unsupervised driving. Tesla crossed 10 billion miles in early 2026. The cars are still level 2. A human still has to watch every second. On the April 2026 earnings call, Musk pledged unsupervised driving for passenger vehicles by Q4 2026, a target analysts widely consider impossible given where the technology sits today. The FSD system is legally classified as a driver assistance tool. Getting from that point to genuine unsupervised autonomy within months would require a leap that no current roadmap supports. And yet the promise sits in headlines, keeping investors calm, keeping customers waiting just a little longer. The question is no longer whether Tesla will miss another deadline. The question is who has to answer for the ones they've already missed. In December 2025, somebody finally started asking. The courtroom that finally drew a line was not a federal court. It was a California administrative law hearing, and the ruling that came out of it in December 2025 was blunt. A California administrative law judge found that Tesla's use of the term autopilot was misleading to consumers. More directly, the judge ruled that the phrase full self-driving was, in the court's own language, actually unambiguously false and counterfactual. Not exaggerated, not misleading. False and counterfactual. Those are the words a court used to describe the brand name of Tesla's most expensive software product. The California DMV moved to suspend Tesla's dealer and manufacturing licenses in the state for 30 days. In the most lucrative car market in America, losing the ability to sell vehicles for even 1 month would be catastrophically expensive. This was not a fine. It was a threat to Tesla's core revenue stream in the state where it builds most of its cars. Data reported to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration showed, as of January 2026, more than 2,800 crashes involving Tesla's driver assistance systems. General Motors, in second place across the entire industry, had just 108. That gap is not a rounding error. It is the difference between a product used within its design limits and one that has been oversold to people who believe it can do far more than it actually can. California had seen enough, and what happened next revealed far more about Tesla's real confidence in its own product than any earnings call ever had. Companies rarely admit defeat directly. They rename things. They adjust the fine print. They file a lawsuit so they can claim to be fighting back while quietly doing exactly what they were told to do. Tesla did all three. Faced with losing its license to sell cars in California, Tesla dropped the name Autopilot entirely in the early 2026, replacing it with traffic-aware cruise control. It also officially retitled Full Self-Driving as Full Self-Driving Supervised, a name that explicitly acknowledges what courts and engineers had been saying for years: a human must be watching at all times. The word supervised is not a disclaimer buried in the manual, it is now literally part of the product name. At the same time, Tesla filed a lawsuit against the California DMV, calling the false advertising ruling baseless. The company's argument is essentially that full self-driving described future capability rather than present reality, and that consumers understood this distinction. The California courts and the 3,000-person class action say otherwise. This is the quiet admission hiding inside the aggressive posture. If Tesla believed its product was accurately named, it would not have changed the name. It changed the name because the alternative was losing the right to sell in California. The lawsuit is a face-saving exercise. The name change is the concession. The company that built its entire valuation on the story of inevitable autonomy had just been forced to put the word supervised into its flagship product title. So where does a company with a $700 billion market cap go when its core story starts to unravel? It goes to the next story, and Tesla is very good at telling new stories. When the FSD narrative began cracking under the weight of lawsuits and regulatory pressure, Tesla shifted the conversation. Musk began speaking with increasing urgency about the Optimus humanoid robot and the Cybercab driverless taxi. Earnings calls that once centered on vehicle deliveries became showcases for a different vision entirely. A future where Tesla doesn't just make cars but deploys fleets of autonomous taxis and armies of robots working in factories at scale. In Q3 2025, Musk told investors that Optimus was the biggest product of all time and promised a V3 reveal in Q1 2026. That reveal didn't happen. What arrived instead were 2 patents filed in 2024 describing hand and arm mechanics. As of the April 2026 earnings call, Optimus V3 had still not been shown to the public. The Cybercab program, meanwhile, had roughly 500 units operating in pilot programs as of March 2026, with every vehicle still requiring a human monitor nearby. But here's what the pivot accomplishes. It resets the clock. Investors who might be growing impatient with 10 years of missed FSD deadlines have a fresh horizon to focus on. Robotaxis in every major city. Humanoid workers generating revenue at scale. The valuation is no longer anchored to what the company has built. It rests on what it might build. That strategy only works as long as the market believes the next promise has a better chance than the last one. And Wall Street, for reasons that deserve their own chapter, keeps believing. Tesla is valued like a software company. That is the central tension at the heart of how the stock market prices TSLA. Traditional automakers trade at between 5 and 10 times their earnings. Tesla, even after a difficult 2025 that brought back-to-back years of falling deliveries, and its first year of declining revenue, still trades at a multiple that dwarfs every legacy car maker in the world. That premium exists because analysts are pricing in future software revenue that does not currently exist. The assumption is that FSD will eventually scale into a high-margin subscription product, and that Cybercab will generate recurring revenue across a fleet of millions. This is the halo effect at work. Musk built SpaceX into a genuine breakthrough company. He turned Tesla from a niche curiosity into the dominant electric vehicle brand of the 2000s. Those real achievements created a reservoir of credibility that the market has continued drawing on, even as the specific promises underpinning the current valuation remain undelivered. Deutsche Bank analysts noted in early 2026 that while Tesla's auto business was likely to underperform for the year, they expected investors to continue looking past that weakness toward the company's Robotaxi expansion and humanoid ambitions. That is the halo effect in writing. Past success authorises the next promise. But legal systems do not care about halos, they care about contracts. And right now, the contracts Tesla signed with millions of FSD customers are being reviewed by courts in California, Texas, Australia, China, and the Netherlands. Every courtroom that opens is another crack in the story the market has been paying for. Tesla is not the first company to sell a vision it couldn't deliver on schedule. The entire tech industry was built on that pattern. But there is a line between a delayed product and a falsely named one. Multiple courts, in multiple jurisdictions, have now placed Tesla firmly on the wrong side of that line. Electrek has reported that the combined liability from existing FSD lawsuits globally could reach up to $14 billion. That figure doesn't include the regulatory exposure in California, the class actions developing across Europe and Australia, or the longer-term reputational damage from a decade of broken promises. Meanwhile, Mercedes is already selling a Level 3 system that legally allows drivers to take their eyes off the road under specific conditions. Waymo is running fully driverless rides in multiple cities. Tesla, the company that named its product full self-driving, is still legally Level 2 in every market on Earth. The moat Tesla thought it had built around autonomy is not a moat. Competitors are closing the gap. The brand that once seemed years ahead now looks like it spent those years managing a story instead of building the product. Tesla may not have set out to deceive anyone. Musk almost certainly believed every deadline he announced when he announced it. But in the stock market, the distance between technological optimism and financial misrepresentation is measured in billions of dollars, and the courts are now doing the measuring. The bill has come due. Whether Tesla can pay it, in courtrooms, in product delivery, and in investor trust, is the question that defines the next 5 years. And if that question matters to you, subscribe, share this video with someone who needs to see it, and tell me in the comments, is Tesla still worth the bet?